Wish none of this had happened.
So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us.
The Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter are two of the most famous movie franchises of all time. The Lord of the Rings was adapted by Tolkien's books of the same names, which were published from 1954 to 1955. J.K. Rowling's 7-book Harry Potter series was published much later, from 1997 to 2007. As expected of fantasy franchises, there are many overlaps between Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, in regards to character tropes, themes, and story details. There is magic and magic, dark lords and dark lords, elves and elves, powerful white-bearded wizards and powerful white-bearded wizards. Gandalf and Dumbledore both exemplify the wise mentor archetype and even have a component of rebirth attached to them. Aragorn and Sirius both come from families or ancestors who have succumbed to the dark side. They afterwards search to be good despite their families. The series both also feature goofy duos, dangerous spiders, mirrors, or in Harry Potter's case, pensieves, into the past, and some similar imagery. But let's not neglect our beloved protagonists, Frodo Baggins and Harry Potter. Two individuals who are the heart and soul of their series, who exemplify undeniable bravery and kindness, despite the tough emotional and physical battles they face. Frodo and Harry walk a similar path, and the deeper you unravel their stories, the more you can realize that they may just be reflections of one another. Frodo and Harry follow the Chosen One trope very closely.
She's only interested in you because she thinks you're the chosen one.
But I am the chosen one. Okay, sorry.
The Chosen One trope is a narrative device in which a character, usually the protagonist, is in charge of saving the world. Often, the character is predestined to become a hero, or they come from a special lineage. The Chosen One usually comes from humble beginnings or has a tragic backstory before rising to their role and embarking on the hero's journey. This is the case for both Harry and Frodo, but in very different ways. Harry was orphaned and then left to live with his neglectful and abusive aunt and uncle after Voldemort killed his parents. Upon Voldemort's rise to power, a prophecy was made envisioning the birth of a boy with the capability to defeat he who shall not be named. This boy turned out to be none other than Harry Potter, who Voldemort marked as his equal when he was just a baby. On the other hand, Frodo is just an ordinary hobbit at the start of the trilogy. From a well-respected family, yes, but there was nothing extraordinary or grandiose about his life. There was always something special about Frodo.
Of all my numerous relations, you were the one Baggins that showed real spirit.
As such a pure-hearted being, Frodo had more of a tolerance to the ring's effects than most. By just a glance at it, Smeagol becomes a murderer. Boromir attacks Frodo. Even Gandalf must stop himself from touching it due to its overwhelming power. Frodo was not chosen to go on this quest by any prophecy. It was not foretold by the gods or written in the stars. Frodo displays a twist on what's considered the Chosen One trope. Frodo is the one to carry the ring because of his innate selflessness and goodness, and because of the uniqueness of his position and the courage he is the Chosen One of Middle-earth. Not chosen by an oracle, but by himself and those who believe in him.
I will take the ring to Mordor.
The comparison between Frodo and Harry extends beyond their role in the story to the challenges they face. Frodo never desires to gain control over anyone, so the ring doesn't have as much of an impact on him as it could. In Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone is an object wielding great power that gives the ability of immortality to its possessor, just like the ring. The barely living Voldemort pursues the stone but is unable to find it. Instead, when Harry looks into the Mirror of Erised, the stone recognizes his lack of greed or intention to use it, so it deposits itself into Harry's pocket.
Only a person who wanted to find the stone, find it, but not use it, would be able to get it.
Harry and Frodo's inherent integrity are what give them the task and burden of possessing something so powerful. The holding of the One Ring also represents striking similarities to the Horcruxes of Harry Potter. Frodo is initially not seemingly swayed by holding the One Ring, but as he carries it for longer and longer, its negative impacts on Frodo's demeanor increase. It's clear that the One Ring troubles its carrier with not just physical threats, but also a great emotional toll. Frodo must hold on to the ring until it is destroyed, just as Harry must do with Voldemort's Horcruxes.
We have to keep it safe until we find out how to destroy it.
Horcruxes are objects of very dark magic which mutilate and contain a part of its user's soul. Voldemort creates several Horcruxes in order to protect and prolong his life. Throughout the Deathly Hallows films, Harry, Ron, and Hermione go on a search to destroy all of Voldemort's Horcruxes, but after obtaining one, the locket, they must hold on to it until they figure out how they can properly destroy it. Since the locket carries such dark magic, it takes advantage of its wearer's fears, anger, and pain, making them irritable and uneasy to be around. The emotional influences of the One Ring and Horcruxes impact the thoughts and actions of the protagonists, which even shifts the plot.
Your parents are dead. You have no family.
It is Gollum's manipulation alongside the emotional toll of the ring which causes Frodo to eventually lash out at Sam and cast him away.
Go home.
A similar parting of best friends happens in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, when wearing the locket causes a frustrated Ron to walk out of the trio's quest. There is a difference in how Frodo sends Sam away and Ron chooses to leave Harry, but the resemblance of how the central objects of power lead to the isolation of the protagonist is undebatable. Where things get especially interesting is with how Frodo and Harry's sense of morality is assessed. Morality is a central theme throughout both stories, but it's also indirectly how both characters save their respective worlds. Frodo gives everything in him to this quest. By the time he reaches Mount Doom, he's absolutely broken down physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. He's exhausted, starved, and tormented by fear and the psychological control of the ring. He carries the weight of an immense darkness that strips away so much of him without completely destroying him. At the end, Frodo is unable to let go of the One Ring and let it fall into Mount Doom. It is not because of any moral failing or weakness inside of him, but because of how the ring's power and influence reaches its peak in Mount Doom. Its pressure is too strong for anyone to willingly drop it. In the Fellowship of the Ring, Gandalf reprimands Frodo for saying that the vile Gollum should have been killed. The wizard teaches him of forgiveness and suggests that all beings hold potential for good and bad. Gandalf theorizes that even someone as corrupt as Gollum may bring some good.
My heart tells me that Gollum has some part to play, for good or ill.
Frodo continues to protect Gollum's life throughout the trilogy, and in the end, his mercy for Gollum is what saved both his own life and the entire world. Gollum falls into Mount Doom, grasping at the ring, inadvertently protecting Frodo from either that same fate or a path of evil destruction. It's an emotionally complicated conclusion, relieving, sad, pitiful, dramatic, but also an incredible testament to how pure morals always pay off. In the case of Harry Potter, the boy who lived is similarly met with an ultimate test of morality. Harry goes alone to meet Voldemort, knowingly walking to his death. He understands that he must face the Dark Lord alone and has to die in order for the piece of Voldemort's soul within him to be destroyed.
He must die. Voldemort himself must do it. That is essential.
While this moment seems inevitable and inescapable, Harry still chooses to walk into the Forbidden Forest and do what's right. He does not run away in fear or put his life before anyone else's. Harry acts with the purest form of selflessness, and by giving himself up, he plays a crucial role in defeating Voldemort, demonstrating that our ethical decisions do matter.
We've all got both light and dark inside us. What matters is the part we choose to act on.
Even in terms of personality, both Frodo and Harry have a sort of humble confidence to them. They're modest and do not actively seek attention, but will speak up when they have strong opinions on something. They are both smart, resilient, and morally driven characters, but they also require support from their best friends. Samwise the Brave is Frodo's Ron and Hermione, And without the three of them, Frodo and Harry wouldn't have made it far. Ultimately, though the stories of the two franchises have indisputable similarities, each is very distinct in its world building, tone, and approach to characters and themes. The Lord of the Rings is much more regal in its high fantasy genre. The setting feels very far away, and the story seems to put more of an emphasis on the world's conflict rather than getting extremely intimate with the characters. The wide and complex lore of Middle-earth is explored, like the politics between the different races and the backstory of each very well thought out location. Each setting has history to it, like the Shire, Moria, Mordor, Rivendell, and even the Undying Lands. The Lord of the Rings is so compelling because it's unlike anything anyone's seen before, with how it interacts with politics in high fantasy. What makes Harry Potter distinct is that it takes place in a secret world that exists alongside us. Wizards walk next to muggles, and the mythical wizarding world is just one platform away. Harry Potter also places deep importance on interpersonal relationships. Of course, there's exploration of this between characters like Frodo, Sam, and Gollum, Frodo and Gandalf, Gimli and Legolas, Aragorn and Arwen, and more. But Harry Potter really dives into the pasts and home lives of each of its characters. We know all about Harry's biological parents and his relationship with the Dursleys. We know all of Ron's family. We see in detail the trio grow up and face issues of adolescence, like love, jealousy, and insecurity, alongside their tackling of larger world issues. This level of detail is also made possible, at least in part, by the franchise's overall longer runtime. The 8 Harry Potter movies also get progressively drearier. The last movies more closely matched The Lord of the Rings in terms of their dark and serious tone. But Harry Potter's earlier movies have a lighter tone because the characters are young and the Voldemort conflict is still brewing. Frodo and Harry lead us through 2 of the most elaborate and extraordinary journeys in all of cinematic history. And despite how similar the characters' arcs and ways of dealing with their conflicts, relationships, and trauma are, Frodo and Harry illustrate how limitless the potential of storytelling is.